In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build out another type of ad agent that actually goes in and performs tasks for you inside of any given ad platform. In this example, I'm going to be doing Google Ads. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and change this to auto mode. I like to use it in extra high. You can change it to max, doesn't really matter. Then basically just going to talk to the AI and tell it a little bit about what I'm trying to do. I have a task that needs to be accomplished that was given to me by one of our clients. I will be pasting the task in, but the summary of it is essentially they found some issues with our ad copy and they requested that we change it. So I would want you to go into the affected ad account, review the ad copy for this issue, and then make the changes and publish the changes. Please make sure to interview me to make sure that you have all the information that you need in order to make this work. So I've attached a screenshot of the exact message that our client sent in, and I'm going to add some additional context just to clarify. This is about ad copy. They got two different products that this business offers. Just to clarify, H4L means Home for Life, and that is a different product from reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages are for those 62 and older. And then I'm also going to attach some copy that you can then review to make sure that the copy that you replace is replaced with the correct. We're going to start small and then we can scale up what all this agent does for us as we go. Essentially what this agent needs to do is be able to go in, navigate through the Google Ads UI, review all of our active ads, and then go in and change all of that copy. And we're doing this specifically for one of our clients, but we could essentially use this agent's processes for any one of our other clients. Once we get it to work for this one specific client, we would just essentially in the future say, hey, we have some other ad copy we want to change, and then it could replicate this exact strategy, but go in and do this process for that other client. It's saying that the structured question tool is blocked in this mode, and that's basically just because for whatever reason it's been glitching out and hasn't been staying on auto mode. So we're just telling it to try again. We're going to make this agent scope even more specific, and we are going to be more precise in how we want it to go about reviewing the headline information. All I will really need you to do is change every instance of 55 to 62. And then audit the changes to make sure that you didn't miss any of the copy that had the incorrect copy in it. We also don't want it to just pull PMax. We don't want it to just pull Performance Max. We want it to audit all of the ads across all the different campaign types. Another thing I wanted to clarify was making sure that none of those ads were active with that bad copy, and it was able to clarify that that was the case. One thing to make sure it's never hallucinating is if you ask it to cite the exact ID or just cite more specifics about the data and like where it was found, that'll make sure that it actually finds the right data as opposed to hallucinating it. And then we're going to answer the two questions that it gave us. Yes, I would like you to go ahead and proceed with the 11 changes that and I had already reviewed them to change all of these, and that there was no incorrect reading by the AI. But essentially, once it makes these changes, we will go and double check to make sure that these changes actually happened. Then once that's the case, we will move on to turning this into a repeatable agent. So it looks like it was able to change all of them. We're going to go into Google Ads and check those. So probably the quickest way to check it would be to go to change history and just see if anything has been implemented as of today. So it looks like there may potentially have been some changes because you can see it was done by the Google Ads API, which is what it would be using to change those headlines. We'll go in and check the campaigns themselves. We're just going to do a quick spot check because obviously everyone knows how to go in and actually check that stuff themselves, but I just want to show you the full process that I would go through to make sure that everything is being checked. Let's see, we wanted to make sure we're checking the right asset group. Which asset group did you change? Okay, age range, add content. So it would have been in here. We go through and we can see, okay, perfect. It is now showing 62 plus, so we should be good to go. One thing to note is that it changed some of our dynamic keywords, which is a bit frustrating because we want to keep those dynamic keywords a lot of times. So we're going to add one more additional functionality on this and have it go through and change those in the Google Ads UI, the user interface, exactly what we see, because it's able to do all the changes that we would typically do in the way we would typically do them. It just takes a little bit longer because using Chrome for you takes a lot more bandwidth and is just a bit slower because it has to wait for pages to load and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. For the keyword dynamic insertions and the location dynamic insertion headlines, I would like you to go in and adjust these in Google Ads using the Claude and Chrome tool to make these adjustments via the UI. So sometimes it gets confused and thinks that it's on the two-factor authentication or login, when in reality when we come over here we see that we're already logged in. So we're just going to come back here and tell it to operate on its own. So the UI is having some issues. It's having issues navigating it because obviously it can be a little bit complex and confusing to navigate just for an AI. So it should be able to do everything. You just sometimes have to give it a little bit of prompting, a little bit of guidance, so that way it knows where to go and find things. And then after you do this one time, once you save these adjustments to your agent into the database, you shouldn't run into these issues in the future. You are incorrect here. The ad was already created over a day ago, which means it should be showing up in the UI. You may just be looking for it and filtering for it incorrectly, which is why you were unable to find it. We have a specific skill built for navigating Google Ads via Claude and Chrome that you should be able to utilize. You should also be able to utilize taking screenshots and using the screenshots to navigate appropriately. So let's try this again. And then we'll see what's able to give us. And sometimes it can just be frustrating that it's not working in the exact way that you want it to, even though you know it should be able to find this exact campaign. So running into, so we're trying to get it to find Jumbo, and it says there's no enabled ads. But then if we go back up here, we'll see that for whatever reason it changes the campaign status to enabled, and so that's why it's not showing up. So if we come back up here, this feels like more of a Google Ads glitch than anything. And if we click apply view, all of a sudden it shows up again, which is why I wasn't able to find it to begin with. We go Jumbo, and see now it's starting to show up. So this is not something you can really plan for, it being this stupid, but we can essentially screenshot it and show exactly what it needs to see in order for it to start working. So since we were able to find it, the reason you weren't able to find the ad in the UI is because you were only looking at campaigns that were enabled even when you had filtered for a paused campaign. So that means that in the UI it showed that no ads fell into that filter. However, if you set up the filters correctly, you should be able to find the ad. So, once again, this is just like training a really stupid employee. You only have to, but luckily they have an infinite memory, so you only have to do it once, but sometimes that first time is very frustrating. Another note to add while this is loading is that a big thing that you can do to allow it to run autonomously is defining what done means for whatever it is that it's doing, and then telling it to loop until it figures out how to do the exact thing that you're wanting to do, as opposed to trying a couple things and then stopping and asking you questions. Tell it, hey, here's exactly what done looks like to me in this case. Here I want to add these two headlines to these ads, and essentially define done as these ad copies being changed and then being confirmed in Claude that they have been changed. That way it knows exactly what it's shooting for, and it will figure out all the steps in between, but telling that, hey, you got to keep looping until you figure it out, or you hit some impossible blocker that you can't get past. So in this case, it genuinely was confused by the Google Ads UI and couldn't figure it out. But there are other cases where there are significantly smaller blockers that it could figure out if it just kept trying, but it just doesn't know why it should keep trying if it doesn't know the exact end goal you have in mind. It's now running into one of those issues that it can't solve on its own, this confirm it's you portion, and sometimes, as everyone knows, you have to do two-factor authentication inside your ad accounts, and so sometimes there are things that just have to be manually done. So we're going to go confirm workflow, and then it should be able to keep operating. Then we've done that, so we'll just tell it done. And theoretically, we could press the save button for it and just finish it out, but I want to show you it completing it all the way for us. Perfect. We can confirm that it is completely set up the way we need it to. It went through the UI and confirmed it for us as well. So that means it was saved. We are good to go. Obviously, you can double check it yourself to make sure it does it correctly the first time. Next up, now that it's done it correctly, now we need to turn it into a skill/agent. So from here, please help me turn this into a skill or an agent to use in the future to make ad copy adjustments for me. And then another thing, we want to make sure this gets saved to the database. This will also need to be saved to the database. This is more just doubling down on what it should already do, but I just like to be safe. And while it may take a while for this to process and create the agent for you, it will process it pretty much all on its own. Once you've figured out the way to do it the first time, it then saves it correctly for you to use in the future. One thing I always like to do, QC it, make sure that it didn't miss anything obvious. That way, when you use it again in the future, you don't run into any issues that were easily preventable. Perfect. Now it's QC'd it. It found some obvious issues, solved those. It's saved for later. So now if you ever want to perform a similar task like this in the future, all you have to do is request for it to find the Google Ads copy editor agent, and it will go into the database, pull out this process, and you can go from there. One thing that I do like to do whenever I'm in the middle of building an agent is go in and test it on a couple other different processes, different clients, to make sure that it's stress tested and there aren't any other issues that I'll run into in the future. However, you don't necessarily need to do this. You can just essentially solve those issues whenever they arise with you using this again in the future. So hope this video helps. I've got plenty of other videos on how to use agents effectively for all of your marketing tasks, so feel free to go check those out as well.